Welcome to Joking Interviews, Fawaz.
It's nice to be here.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, so my name's Fawaz. Uh, I'm a senior in high school in Missouri, and I am the owner and software developer of ZenyScripts. So,
What exactly does ZenyScripts do?
um, so our entire brand really focuses around helping collectors and resellers get limited edition items faster, right?
Yeah,
So there's a lot of drops that happen online with really, really limited stock, and they can be really hard to secure without some kind of tool to make it faster.
right.
And so basically what we wanted to do is make something that people could use for certain drops. And that's a pretty like broad overview of what our company is about. But so this is already a pretty big market, uh, and I went in
Right,
there kind of late. Um,
right. It's been there like
but
5 years already.
hmm?
It's been there almost like 5 years.
Yeah, the whole reselling sneakers and stuff has been around for a how many now, and bots. I think you're right with that number. Started showing up about 4 or 5 years ago. Um, so my thing kind of specialized that it went for more niche releases that most bots didn't support. Um, as the ZenyScripts uh, software, right, is only an extension. And so yeah, we really targeted things that were not covered. So we actually had really good success until competitors started showing up. Which one thing I am proud to say is that even though a lot of competitors have appeared, we've stayed like pretty dominant in the market. So that's one thing I'm kind of proud of.
Is it when you say we? Is it So do you have more than one person on your team?
Yes and no. So I'm the sole owner, and I'm technically the sole developer. As I have had other people work on the project and code, but those are mainly just like temporary things, not like um, bringing a permanent developer onto the project. So, but I do have a staff team that I work with. So their main job is just like customer support and such. So they'll handle tickets in our support forum and stuff like that. So
Nice. Wow, that's really cool that you do this. How
yeah.
did you learn all the tools that are required to write this program?
So it mainly started back around freshman year. I started to get into coding in general. Um, with that, like I struggled. I didn't feel super comfortable with it. Um, and then throughout freshman year, it was kind of the same thing where like I would try to mess around with code and I never get anywhere. And then the summer after freshman year, I attended a bunch of camps and I learned a lot more. But again, it still wasn't the right environment. Uh, however, to get me more acclimated to computer science. And then finally, I took two classes at school, AP Computer Science and C++. And those finally made everything click because in those classes, I learned a lot of the basics, or I learned a lot of the more fundamental concepts. And with that, uh, that's that's where I think I really became a software engineer. And then the summer afterwards, I pretty much ditched Java and C++ to focus on Python and JavaScript. And those are just the two languages I've been working with ever since.
So so you write Zenny in Python and JavaScript now?
Um, all of our products are written in JavaScript. There was some I use Python for mainly like smaller personal projects, but everything we do in the company is done through Node and JavaScript.
All right. Do you, do you think it's unfair that some people have access to bots that can get the products at like faster and you know and in that way like have the and other people might not have that luxury,
So I guess with that, no, I mean I guess it's definitely not fair, but like the only, and I've thought about this before, and like really all I could think about was just like it is what it is, right? Like
right?
these people, there's no laws against it. Really, and nothing we're doing is illegal. Actually, for tickets, it's illegal. So,
Right.
if people have asked me to like make ticket bots, and I always have to say no. Sorry, that's illegal. Um, but I mean, what we're doing is legal, not ethical, but it, it and yeah, you're right. It is not fair. There's a very big like, oh, Tyler, there's a very big like steep learning curve going into it. Like just getting a bot isn't enough. You really need to know what you're doing. Um, but yeah, but even though like I wouldn't say reselling is a very ethical career, and I don't think many people use it as an entire career,
Right.
but I am kind of happy to say that a lot of resellers do have like a sense of ethics. Um, since the corona, um, since like the whole corona pandemic, people have been very careful about making sure not to resell essential items like masks and stuff like that, and only reselling, luxuries like Nintendo Switches or barbells, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
that's very good. Yeah. Um, is there, so you said like you need multiple things to be able to do this. So is your product just like one step in the, it just focuses on one category of that?
well, yeah. So there's multiple parts to having a good setup to buy stuff. Luckily, with ZenyScripts, and because we work in a very small niche, um, there's really not a ton you need. However, the main like three parts of it, which I'll break down, is information, automation, and then I guess extras. I have a cool rhyme for that one. But when I say information, is like, so there are these like things called cook groups, and essentially what they'll do is that they'll provide you the information so that you know what to look for, right? Because generally most people who don't know about reselling don't know what limited items are. And so if you're just going into this with just a bot, you don't know what to buy and you don't know what you're buying. And so that's where the cook groups come in, or the information comes in. And then for the automation part, that's where stuff like ZenyScripts come in, where we actually do the buying for you. And then with extras, that's just stuff like proxies and servers. So although it's not necessary with ZenyScript since it's just an extension. Um, Basically, what that does is that it puts you on an edge compared to other users because it'll allow you to run multiple instances, or it'll allow you to uh, use multiple IP addresses when you're running your bot, or it'll allow you to run your bot faster. So yeah, those are just yeah extras.
Yeah. Is there any anti-botting software that can like detect like the companies that actually sell the sneakers? Do they have any security against botting?
Yeah, now that's where it gets fun, right? So as a front, so the main thing that distinguishes ZenyScripts from a lot of other bots is that everything we do is front end, which because I'm in a because there's not a lot of competition in this like environment, I can successfully do stuff front end. But when you start going a back end approach, that's where bot protection comes in, right? So here, I'll kind of um, I'll kind of talk to you about how botting works, and I'll show you how bot protection plays into that, right? So whenever you're buying a product, let's just say on Adidas, um, whenever you add to cart, whenever you make your checkout session, whenever you sign in, whenever you submit your billing, submit your shipping, submit your order, those are all making requests to Adidas' servers, right? Um, and one way and how you can make checkout faster or how you can check out extremely fast is just by mimicking those requests with code. So if you can just figure out how your browser is talking to the company's server and you can mimic that with code, you can check out within a few seconds backend compared to maybe like 10, 15, 20 seconds front end. So it's a huge speed boost. But at the same time, then you come across protection, right? Because whenever you're interacting with the website and whenever you're actually using a browser, there are certain flags you make. Like whatever you click. So right now we'll talk about a certain company called Akamai. And what they do for a lot of sites is that every time you click, it records a bunch of sensor data about your click and your session in general, and it sends it to uh, Akamai and it processes it, right? And if your sensor data looks human, then what's it called? Then you're given a cookie, and that cookie allows you to check out and talk to the servers, right? But the problem is, whenever you're doing stuff backend, then you're not making those requests with sensor data um, to prove your humanity, right? And you'll be blocked in certain points of the process. Um, so that's how a lot of stuff works. That there are certain things you do when you're browsing the site that normally a bot wouldn't do, and
Oh,
by by blocking sessions if they aren't doing those, if they aren't like flagging those human things, um, that's what bot protection companies like Perimeter X, Akamai, Datadome, Cloudflare, that's what they all do.
but
Um,
but since you're a front end company, you don't have to deal with any of that.
no, but so we are making a second product right now, which is all backend. So working with that, we've had to, at least I have had to spend a lot of time, uh, figuring out how these bot protections work, so I can either like reverse engineer it or find a bypass. Which, in a lot of cases, there actually is a bypass which will allow you to pretty much skip any actual bot protection. So
Okay. So your niche is autofill, right? That's
yeah,
an auto checkout.
it's like an autofill, auto checkout. Um, what's it called? So you just whenever you go on a site that we support, we'll take over your browser and start checking out.
So do you like check out everything that's been released in the last like X amount of seconds?
Um, no, typically what we do is that we don't take control over your session until you get to the product, right?
Okay.
So we don't have any form of like monitoring because yeah, typically because we do offer monitors in our forms in our forum that will like let you know every time something like releases or and we do decent job with upkeep and such, and making sure people stay notified of releases. But typically, with these more niche releases, they'll tend to bring you straight to the product page, and then our software will take over.
And then check out.
So, yeah.
Right. Is there a growing market for this? Is it
Yeah, there it is definitely a growing market, but it's also getting oversaturated. And what I mean by this is, Larry, I mean, I'm sure you understand, but like, there's you can't have like 100 sneaker bots with 1,000 users each going for 50 pairs of shoes, right? You know, inherently that just can't work. The user to success ratio for every bot is going to be freakishly low. So it is a very competitive niche. But like 100%, it's super super competitive. But
so how did you find this niche that people needed?
um, so uh, so I've been in the reselling community for a decent amount of time, right? I got into reselling on the same time I got into coding, so around freshman year. Um, but what's it called? How do I put it? Um, but that was a lot of sneaker stuff, and it was already a very dominant bot market for it, and I didn't really know how it worked. It wasn't until so so all the reselling and coding really stayed separately. It wasn't until about the summer after sophomore year and the summer before junior year where I finally I saw a I was going for a release, and um I managed to get something manually, right? So I realized, all right, this if I was able to get it manually, I'd probably be able to always, and it was a very competitive release, right? A lot of people did manage to get it. I realized, all right, if I just make something that'll make my checkout process faster, then I'll always manage to get it, right?
Right.
And then I found basically the entire thing we as ZenyScripts do is that we find websites where it's actually possible to check out manually on a release, and then we make it so you pretty much need an extension or some sort of tool to check out.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Wow. So you were in the reselling market as well, and that's how you got the idea of making the bot to make it
yeah,
easier.
yeah. So
Wow. So you know both sides of like you can understand it from both perspectives, the coder's perspective and the user's perspective.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And that was one thing I try to think about a lot when I'm doing stuff for ZenyScripts. It's like, all right, I was a consumer for a very long time in this market. How would I feel about this? How I feel about that?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I'm sure that's very useful because a lot of times coders cannot relate to people that use their products, which
for sure.
for sure.
And I think that definitely that definitely what makes certain like stuff stand out is that they have a very good idea of who their target audience is. So I was going into it with a very good idea of who's going to be using the software.
Yeah.
Um, so
I noticed on your website you had something called like sold out. Is it? I didn't know it was possible for like a software product to get sold
yeah,
out. Is there like a reason?
I just so mainly it's to keep a good user success ratio, right? If I had like
Ah,
thousands of users with my product, my our users wouldn't have very good success, and it would not.
right.
And that's one thing I want to maintain is a good user success ratio. So we do grow. I do hold restocks on Twitter, and I do give certain cook groups exclusive access to buy my software. Um, But yeah, I do keep the stock fairly limited. I think there's around 900 to 1,000 users right now.
Wow, that's a lot actually. That's quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Um,
But that's really successful what you've done because like 900 is not a small number at all, especially for a software product.
yeah, for
And
sure.
and plus $20 a month. That's not that's definitely very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, especially for a high school student.
No, yeah. It was definitely overwhelming at first. So like this hasn't been all. It's like I feel like I made this seem like kind of too good to be true, but it's a one thing I didn't realize going into this is that it's a lot of stress, right? Like managing a company is so much stress. Um, and that was really killing me back in third quarter when school was in session because I was trying to balance a really intense school schedule with also running and developing ZenyScripts, and that it took a toll on me mentally. Um, but I powered through it, and eventually, and with the whole with spring break and
Right.
the pandemic, I was able to give ZenyScripts a lot more time, and that improved my business and improved my mental state.
Yeah, I can you can see that like your Twitter following has increased. I saw it in February. It was like 9K and now it's like 21K. It's that's insane.
Our popularity has definitely grown, and I guess I've got my PR to thank for that. He's put a lot of time and work into getting connections and reaching out to people. He's a really nice dude, and he's actually the because at first I was actually just making these scripts privately for myself to use, right?
Right.
It wasn't until he came around and I showed him to him that he was like, "Yo, you can turn this into a business."
Right.
And that thought had never occurred to me. And then he was like, "Hey," I was like, "You're right." And then that night we created a Twitter account for it, and we started like teasing stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
Are there any competitors in the auto checkout? Like
yeah, for sure. There's a few notable competitors, um, but like I said, we have done a really good job of staying dominant in the niche because um, we since we have been in the scene for so long, we have a good reputation, and we also have a software that has been being built for a long time, right?
right.
So a lot of time has went into this, and that's one, and a lot of time has built around our brand, I guess. So it's aged well.
Wow. That's really impressive. If there's anything you could say to a high school entrepreneur right now, trying to start a business, what would you say to them? What advice would
School
you give?
entrepreneur. All right. Um, don't put your business above school. 100%, right? Because I tried to do that like beginning of third quarter, and my grades were not good. And then I was like, I need to get back in control. I need to realize, this science show probably won't be the rest of my life. I've got to get more focused on school. So definitely think about that. Is make sure you're allocating your time properly. Um, and then what else? Um, let's see. I guess that's one main thing for like if you're going into entrepreneurship in high school, and to be aware of. And another thing is don't be sad or surprised if things don't go out the way you wanted it to, right? Because even though my business was successful, I was really lucky, right? There was a lot. I was really lucky because I was one of the first in my niche, and I have. outlived quite a few competitors, right? So there were other competitors that tried to show up, but they died. Um, and one thing I will say is like, it's hard. All you see whenever you look at these huge multi-million, multi-billion-dollar companies is these huge success stories of people with, maybe starting off with a few $100,000 and making, huge, huge companies, or even starting really small, getting really huge. But that's just like the side you see every day. You don't see all the people who have failed, all the people who been trying to start a business and now they're like working for someone, or their their life is unfortunately worse.
Right.
So entrepreneurship is like it's a lot more rough than I think what people see in media.
Definitely. Definitely.
So
Yeah, it's a rough ride for sure.
that would be my main two things you're going into it in high school.
All right. That's all I got, honestly.
All
Um,
right.
all right, yeah. Thanks for being here.
No,
Um,
yeah, no problem. Thanks for inviting me.